as a pediatric dentist. One of our other managing directors' wives is a dentist. I've actually built and sold a dental practice from scratch and lived that field. Right? It's a little bit of fear getting out of the ground, and celebrated the exit when I sold it to my associate. Several team members have dentistry in their veins and in their blood, and so it all holds a special place for us. And between these two worlds is really where TUSK lives, right? We're at the nexus of where finance, investment banking, and the business of dentistry all move. So I want to give you guys an update on what's going on in the M&A markets so you can understand how dynamic all of this really is. The M&A markets are driven by many things: cost of capital, supply and demand, leadership opportunities, where private equity wants to put their money, what the recession could look like. Are we in a recession? What investment opportunities are outside of the business that industry currently live? It's a big, big world. And we spend our entire business day talking with buyers, talking with private equity companies, talking with family funds to really understand where they are in their investment cycle, where they are with respect to valuation, where they are with respect to allocation of value. And when I say allocation of value, what I mean there is how much of that total valuation do they want to see put into cash at close, the wire that you receive when you close your transaction, and how much they want to see you roll into equity inside of their business. So all of this noise and information, I'm going to try to synthesize for you all today. My goal is for you to leave with more information than you walked in with and be able to ask questions. Because I think that because it's such a frothy market and there is so much money to be made, I am certain there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I would like to provide you with what we are seeing, our vantage point, and answer any questions. Once you've wrapped up your lines, feel free to stop and interrupt. Sound good? Great. Okay, so let's take a step back, right? We kind of live in the 2x2 of the mouth. So we want to sit back and look at the patient. Now we want to sit back and look at the practice. And for the practice, we're going to look at the state and then the nation. Now we're going to think about consolidation. So we're zooming out. So where are we today in this consolidation? I'll start by telling you that no one has great data on this. The ADA has terrible data that they publish. It's wrong. In every conference we go through, someone gets up there and says a number, and they have no data to back that up. So where do we get our numbers? We talk to every business development person, CEO, private equity company we can, and synthesize our own opinions, right? So that's where our numbers come from. Today, when you look across the landscape of dentistry, the market's about 25% consolidated. So 75% of the dentists have individual practices that are unaffiliated with either a group practice or a DSO. And the definitions matter here. For a mid-market group, we're going to call those typically pre-private equity, doctor-founded, and debt-funded. Some of you in the room may fall into that category if you have multiple locations. And orthodontists have had multiple locations for a long period of time, long before it was in vogue, right? Because your patients are in different pockets. You have pediatric dentists that want to refer you in different regions. You guys have been playing this game for a nice long time now. But some of you may live in this world. Today, that's about 13% of the total market. And then they're the large enterprise level fees. These are typically private equity backed by the time they become 25 locations. And today they represent about 12% of the market. Over the next 5 years, we're going to see some pretty sizable change. The individual practice owner is likely going to be a much smaller portion of today's market. So they'll probably drop from about 75% down to 60%. And in the mid-market range, we're going to see that grow to about 25% based on the velocity of the consolidation that we're seeing in that space. And for the elite groups, it'll hover somewhere around 15% of the market. And it's growing at about 10 to 12% compound annual growth rate. That's what that CAGR sitting down there says. So look at the growth rate of mid-market and elite groups compared to private practice. Private practice effectively standing still. Why? What's an orthodontist graduating or leaving residency have for student debt? You might have an idea.
Oh, but not the.
That's 700. Yeah. So that's astronomical. So if I have $700,000 worth of debt, I need to find the highest paying job as soon as humanly possible from someone who can pay me. Now, an individual orthodontist, which many of you are, if you bring a partner, an associate in, they're taking money out of your pocket. You are shifting production to them or paying them a day rate, and that is taking money out of your pocket. So these OSOs are able to guarantee a base salary, maybe some commission, maybe start bonuses. And this is why the orthodontists are coming and saying, where's the safest, highest dollars I can receive as soon as possible because I'm sitting on this now debt. And it's the OSOs that provide that for me. There will always be individual practice. There will always be solo practice. There will always be unaffiliated doctors who are excellent at what they do. This is not the death knell of the independent practice. It's just kind of the way things are trending and being aware of these trends. So if you are an independent doctor and you want to make sure that you retain that and maintain that business on a go-forward basis, you're armed with this knowledge and have a way to ensure that you're here for decades. Okay. But let's talk about orthodontics, because orthodontics it's a piece of the bigger puzzle. Ortho right now is only 15 to 70% consolidated. But when I talk to the DSOs and OSOs throughout the nation, what they share with me is, but of all the licensed orthodontists and all the practices out there, we only really want to affiliate with 50%. If you're here at this meeting, you're in that. Let's just call it what it is. Right? You care about your business. You're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner that happens to be an orthodontist. You're trending in the right directions. You're going to be collecting at or above $1.3 billion of revenue. That's the target. So you're in that world, but I'm sure you know of other orthodontists who are not. If you do the reverse math on this, we're probably about 30% consolidated on the ones that they want to affiliate with today. It kind of changes the game a little bit in my mind. That of all the groups out there, they feel like they've got runway for about 5 to 10 more years. It's the conversation I was having with one of the largest OSOs in the nation yesterday on the trade floor. 5 or 10 more years. Good thing, right? So there's plenty of time to still participate in this and get some upside to your equity if you would like. And remain independent if you can choose. Hey, now on to the broader healthcare market. So we've spoke about the industry. Let's now look at mergers and acquisitions historically. This graph here was pulled from this is the Q2 data from a company called PitchBook that pulls together M&A comparables in mergers and acquisition data across multiple platforms to provide folks like us a read into what's going on at the market. And what you'll see here is both the number of transactions and the volume of those transactions over time. But I want to really focus on 2020 through year-to-date 2023. My eyes aren't good, so I'm going to go over here and read a little bit. Okay, so in 2020, pretty standard year looking back at the historicals, but in 2021, something pretty magical happened. There were more M&A deals done in 2021 in a very, very long time. Wait, think about why that might be. Post-COVID. Well, COVID was a part of it. Cost of capital was affordable. I love that. The cost of capital has been affordable for a long time leading up to that. It was actually something a little more bad for pocketbook and net proceeds after sale. There's an election going on. That's right. And there was big concern because Joe Biden, every time he'd take the stand, would say, we got to increase long-term capital gains rates. And he had a written idea that he was going to double long-term capital gains rates. And all of a sudden, the allocation of the sale of your practice, the purchase price, the allocation of the purchase price kind of didn't. And you were going to take it on the chin when you sold your business or you sold a stock portfolio. And what was 20 was going to 40. And people said, to heck with this. I built this business my whole life. I've taken on the risk. I'm taking the reward. Uncle Sam's had his hand in my pocket long enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. And what it did is it compressed a little bit of time. So if you were thinking about selling in 2022 or 2023, you said, you know what? It's better off if I do it now because the net dollars I'll receive are more valuable in the event Biden wins and puts these tax changes into effect. So that's what popped in 2021. 2022 kind of goes back to normal. In 2023, we're going to get, because that's real time. That's today. But what about our clients? So 2021 was a big year for us too. We actually closed 9 transactions in December. We closed 6 transactions on December 31st. I will tell you, it was the wildest workday I've ever had. We were hopping off one closing call, getting on another closing call. My wife and kids got to see this whole thing because it's December 31st. Like, why is Dad working? Why has Dad been up since 3 and staying up till midnight? But we had to get them done because of this fear in the political markets. So 2021 was the banner year for TUSK. 2022 down a little bit as expected, frankly, because we compressed some time there. But this year we're tracking well above where we were in our best year ever. And what I'm showing you here is the number of transactions coupled with the average exit multiples, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more in a second. But we're on track this year to close somewhere around 40 transactions. And the average multiple for our transactions has been going up each and every year. So in 2020, our clients enjoyed an average exit multiple of 6.3 times their EBITDA. Is everyone, let me just do this. In our world, valuation is not based on revenue. It's based off of EBITDA. And EBITDA is simply a proxy for operating free cash. It's how much cash I would expect if I bought your business today and compensated you at a reasonable rate. How much cash would I have left of? So our deals are based on a multiple. How many times that cash flow do I need to pay you for you to part with your business? Okay, so this is the multiple that you'll hear about. So in 2020, 6.3. In 21, 7.48. In 22, 7.83. And this year to date, we're at our high water mark of 8.03. House is policy, right? All we've been hearing about is interest rates are high. There's a great resignation. COVID did a number on practices. I lost my best team members, and they were relatively affordable, to these new team members who had no knowledge, and I'm paying them more than I was paying my former orthodontists. The demand for these businesses has not. Let's think about how these businesses constitute. They are built by private equity companies, which are a collection of limited partners, wealthy people that invest with private equity companies through funds that have an expected return on their money of 20% per year compounded annually. And in order for them to hit those returns, they can't get there exclusively through same-store sales. They get there through acquisition. So the reason I think our multiple has gone up is because we're lucky enough to work with arguably the best business owners in the nation, because the buyers have gotten choosy. Cost of capital has gone up. No questions asked. It has absolutely gone up. And they're saying, when we once would pay for a business that had 15% EBITDA margin, we're not going to pass on that, but we'll overpay for something at 21% come. So maybe there's some selection bias in this. Maybe our team is just doing an excellent job. Either way you want to look at it, the outcomes have been phenomenal. But there are some canaries in the coal mine. Okay? The canary is getting a little stick right now. We are very likely at plateau valuation. These valuations cannot continue to ratchet up half a turn each and every year like clockwork. They won't. They simply will not. So why do we think we're at plateau valuation? Well, we make it our business to know this stuff. And one of the things we like to know is keep a line on who's hiring and who's firing in the OSO community, who just gutted their business development team, who's pencils down on acquisitions, who's having trouble with their lender and no longer can get access to capital to continue to buy practices, who just got a new credit facility at a reasonable rate and is looking to buy practices, who has now come to us and said, look, I'm really sorry, we have to bow out of that process that we're in, because we're so active in the market with so many so many transactions across the nation, across all specialties. It puts us in a very unique vantage point to know more than just about anything. And the news we're receiving is far from troubling, but it's less energetic than we've ever heard it. Now, these businesses come in cycles, right? They get a new capital partner, they get a new capital stack, a new private equity company is the capital partner. They get access to a new line of credit, and they get voraciously hungry to affiliate with folks. And then they go through that cycle, and then all of a sudden they're integrating that business, and then soon they exit, and a new partner comes in. The good news is we're still getting multiple offers on every deal we do. And Barbara can talk to this, but we feel really good about the offers we're receiving, but we're certainly seeing some businesses that might have been Frankenstein together, right? Maybe stacked some EBITDA and hoped that they would make it, facing a little trouble, facing some headwinds. So for those of you who were here last year, just take mental note or look back and look at all the companies that were here, that were OSOs looking to affiliate, and compare that to the list who's here. And ask yourself what's happened. But this is the information where we're. We also know that the Fed has been busy, right? So the Fed's been busy raising rates. And it's not just how high the rates are, it's how quickly we got here. I mean, we were in a super low interest rate environment for a long period of time, and we were all drunk on 0% interest and low mortgages and 3%. Now I can buy a home that's worth $2 million, and we all got real accustomed. And during COVID, the Fed turned on the money cannon, shot it at all of us. Now they're shocked we have inflation. Now we're going to slow the economy down, and the only lever we have to do that is this rate, and they're not done. So there's fully expected to be 2 additional rate hikes between now and when they are officially hitting pause and allowing things to simmer down. The Fed is not going to raise it twice, wait 1 quarter, and begin to decline it because that makes them look foolish. Makes it look like they overshot. So they're going to raise it 2 more times. We're going to sit here stuck for probably 3 or 4 quarters, and slowly but surely we'll start to see this rate come down. That's what all the smart people on Wall Street believe. Okay, that's interesting, but what does that mean? What it means is if I'm looking to buy a $500,000 home, and I was used to getting a 3% interest rate, my cost per month was $2,100. So this is the rate from this morning, 8.15%. This is what it would cost me to get a 30-year mortgage. It would now cost me $3,700 for that same $500,000 home. That's a $1,600 premium. Where are they going to get this money? They're going to come to you for raise first, because you got all the money, right? I'm going to come to you for a raise. Although I have 1 year of experience, I need a raise now because the cost of my lifestyle has been. But DSOs don't trade in $500,000 blocks. They're looking at $5 million blocks. Their cost of capital was never 3%. It was about 5.5%. Now it's about 11%. And the delta of what they're paying on a monthly basis has gone up about $14,000 for every $5 million. That impacts cash flow. So their margins have gone down. Cash flow margins have gone down. That's why they will overpay for great businesses. And they'll say, look, if you got a business that you think is moving up and to the right, and you think it's about to get there, we'll pay for you. We'll affiliate with you. We want you to be a part of the team. But we got to be careful on what we pay because the margin for error has gone way down. The other thing that we're seeing is that the market does not like uncertainty. And there is certainly uncertainty in the market today. The Democrats, well, let's start with the Republicans for a minute. We don't know who the candidate is. I watched the first debate. I had a 14-year-old and my 11-year-old watch it. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to see it. Pop your popcorn for the next one. Don't care what your political persuasion is. Get your kids to watch it and tell them don't ever do that. The way they act toward each other is offensive, but it's really interesting to see them play their cards because we don't know what Trump's doing yet. No one knows. Major uncertainty. And Biden, not doing himself any favors, just being on television. So the Democrats don't know what they're going to do either. We are in a real interesting spot with respect to presidential election. We just gave a lot more money to this man in Ukraine. This is tempting Russia and Putin typically. This could become a sign of some real issues down the line. And we got the Fed. We've talked about the Fed, but I just want to touch on the deficit. I want to touch on our national debt as a percentage of GDP, and that's what that graph is right down there. We're, I think, at 130% right now. This is the highest it has been since 19 ever. We'll show. A little uncertainty. What's all this mean? What could it? Okay, anybody have pasta? Everybody's okay? Is all right? Coffee? We'll do some math. Oh, good? Okay, we'll do some math. All right, so let's look at a situation here of a $5 million practice with $1 million of EBITDA. Those keeping track at home, that's a 20% EBITDA margin. Good? Right. Let's just focus on this column for now. 20% EBITDA margin, let's say you get out at 8x. That would be 8 times the million, takes you $8 million of value, potentially allocated at 80% cash and 20% equity. That would put about $6.4 billion of cash in your pocket before debt, taxes, and fees. Okay? I don't know what anybody's tax situation is. Let's just work on the pre-debt taxes and fees number. And then on the equity, 20% of $8 million is $1.6 million of equity. In the future, what could happen, and we've talked a little bit about the doomsday. I don't think it's all bad. Like that, Ortho's here to say people still get their teeth straightened. But what could happen is, hey, my mortgage has gone up. Hey, my rent's gone up. Hey, I need more money. Wages are probably going to continue to go up. Supply costs. These publicly traded businesses that I adore, that are really good at what they do, they need to make their margin too, and their costs might continually increase. And then, y'all don't suffer this as much unless you're running Invisalign, or maybe you got retainers for life, or whatever you may have. But there's some additional incremental costs that could be climbing as well. Net, 12 months from now, your $1 million of EBITDA could turn into $900,000. Okay, if I own the business, it's not a yawn moment. It's not a shoulder shrug. $900,000 is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But it's material in value. Because if these pigeons that are out there all come home to roost, it's not just the decline in EBITDA margin. It could be the decline in multiple. So just this decline in EBITDA drops value by about $800,000 if multiples stay the same, and then drops your cash at close to 1.3. Like, wait, what happened? Well, the buyer's going to get a little more creative on structure, and they're going to say, I can pay you a lot more cash when interest rates were lower or capital flowed more freely, and I can't do that anymore, and I can't put as much cash into the deal. So your net cash is going to go down to about 1.3 million, but you're going to pick up a lot more equity. I just hope it's in the right company. If multiples decline, it gets precipitously worse. I'm just going to jump to the punchline because you've seen the math from the last scenario. What's changing? Cost increases are the same, $1 million to $900,000, still $8 million on this side, but I've dropped the multiple from 8 to 7. So net decline in valuation is 1.7 million. Net decline in cash is close to 2 million. We talk with a lot of doctors who are like, look, I'm doing great. I think I can add another $50,000 to EBITDA. I think I can add another $100,000 to EBITDA. Awesome. There's operating risk in your business that you already understand. That operating risk lives right here. But now there's more tenuous valuation. And that when valuation multiples are going up and to the right, quarter after quarter, year after year, like our clients have enjoyed for a long period of time, that risk doesn't feel very real. Because all we hear is private equity sitting on stacks of gold. These guys got to put money in the market. They got more dry powder than anybody else out there. True. But I don't think valuations are going to 8.5 times or 9 times or average of 10 times anytime soon. So again, I don't, crystal ball is always a little foggy. Where you are with valuation today is remarkable compared to where you were 7 years ago. You remember when your only option was to sell it to an orthodontist, and you had to find the orthodontist first, And then the orthodontist had to want to be there, like being there. And then he or she was really able to pay you about 70% of your top line revenue, which equated to about 2.5 to 3 times even. We are so much better off than that. To be really clear. So I want to just hit pause and be grateful for where we are. Even at 6 times EBITDA, you're in a really good place compared to that. So there could be a recalibration of expectation setting for all of us around valuation. But today feels like a pretty rich time to begin thinking about a potential exit. I think we're doing pretty good on time. So it is very likely valuations have peaked and are plateauing. We are seeing that in offers today. We talk about it weekly, and we feel good about the market's firmness for now. I don't know where we're going to be after Q1. Q2 is going to be interesting of next year. But great assets will continue to command top dollar. And with it, the great assets will continue to command top dollar. If you're thinking about selling your business in the next 2 years, it does feel like you might want to take a look at it today. We do valuations for doctors all day, every day. We probably do 40 a month at this point. I'm helping them make informed decisions. A valuation will do so much for you because you'll know where you are. You should work in tandem with your financial planner so you understand your personal balance sheet. Like, how much money do I really need to retire, right? And if it's, for some of you, it's going to be, you're already there. But if you say, well, your business is just a cherry on top, for others, it's going to be, you get with your current spending level and savings level, you're going to need $5 million. But you need those two numbers, the practice valuation and the number you need to hit to achieve financial independence. Then you can decide whether or not you want to sell. But more importantly, it will inform your strategy. I went through this exercise during COVID personally with what's my balance sheet look like? What's the business look like? And once I knew what the gap was between where I was and where I needed to be to achieve financial independence, it changed the way I thought about my business completely. It completely emancipated me from worry because I had knowledge. And then armed with that knowledge, I could make better long-term decisions for the business. So we're happy to do that work for you. There's also something coming called the Q1 bump that we see each and every year. So remember how I told you we closed 6 practices on December 31st, and I closed 9 practices in December of 2021. You know what happened on January 15th? We got a call from CEO of Heartland, get a text from Smile Doctors, and they go, where are the deals? Well, we just closed them all. No, we got to do deals now. We're not going to hit our returns unless we continue to close in transactions. So there's this market disequilibrium in Q1. It certainly is in January, where demand remains high and supply is low because most of the inventory, most of the practices, most of the groups have already closed. And we see our clients of ours who are in market, coming to market in January, get a nice bump in valuation because of the disequilibrium market. It has happened each and every year since the benefits. So that's kind of fun to see. Finally, it is of supreme importance that you go through a process. If you don't like us or use us, that's great. I can refer you to other people who do this, but I can't hit this enough. These IDSOs, DSOs, OSOs, they do this all day, every day. They are masters of human psychology, and they want to make you feel good. But they're capitalists first and foremost, and they want to make as much money as they can. So that we're aligned with you on that point. So do not do this on your own. There's too much at stake. It's only your life's work, all your patients, your reputation, and your community. That's all that's at stake, right? No big deal. Finally, the vast differences between the groups has been under a magnifying glass recently. I've touched on it twice already. There's some groups that were here last year that are not this year. The value of the equity really does matter. We've got a former client in here that I know it really mattered to her. We've had a lot of conversations about this. No two groups are the same, and do not believe a word you hear about their expectations around rolled equity. Ask a pro who's been there, who can give you an honest, sober, caffeinated read on what might be happening on that piece of the equation. All right, so I have taken up enough of your time. You've been good to listen. I'd like to invite my dear friend, Dr. William Bennett. You good to join me? Let's do it. So join me with a round warm applause for Dr. William Bennett. Hey! Okay.
So, thank them all. It's gracious. This is odd. I don't know any of you in this room. It's kind of crazy. It's supposed to be a little bit of a kind of a round table.
Yeah.
But I kind of start off quickly with my story because I always find that kind of knowing where people are coming from and what they're doing makes a big difference. So I am one of those December 31st guys from 2020. I have the distinct privilege of being from the state of Georgia. For those of you that don't keep up with politics, you know, Biden won, but it was, well, as long as there's a split Senate from the president, we're in great shape. Georgia had 2 Republican senators. Now we have 2 Democratic senators. So we were your help in that whole process. And so I was very nervous to make sure that I completed because I was worried about a 20% cap gains rate going to 40%. Thus far it hadn't happened. Doomsayer, I think it's absolutely wonderful that it didn't happen. But that was what kind of drove that. Okay, it will happen now. You know, a year from now might be different, whatever. For me, my process started because of 2008. For those of y'all that were old enough to be practicing back then, you know, I was coming out of school shortly thereafter, and there was no practices to buy. There was nothing to be had because everybody was scared to death. You know, heck, my net worth had gone to zero. Patients stopped coming in. The phone stopped ringing. You know, I want to make sure that I'm sure before I exit. And so when I was looking at getting out of school, you know, my older brother was the president of the board of dentistry in the state of Georgia. So it wasn't that I was not a known person. People knew who I was. I sent an email and a letter to every orthodontist in the state of Georgia that, look, you know, if you want to sell out, I want to buy. If you want to bring somebody on and grow, you know, I can walk and chew bubble gum. You know, I need a job. If you don't want any of that, you know, if you want to work a little less, everything feels great. I got crickets. I had 4 people call me. I would come in and meet, you know, I'd come in, I'd meet them, I'd meet their wife, I'd meet their kids, and I'd get a call about a week later, you know, either my accountant, my lawyer, or my wife says I'm not ready to retire. So I'm sorry and good luck. And so I ended up buying a practice that was literally, the guy had grossed just under $400,000 the year before I bought it. He did not have a front desk person. He had 2 employees. The youngest one was 62. The youngest employee was 62. And very, very, very insistent that I not meet the staff prior to the sale. And so I bought that practice, and I found an associateship with a small group of pediatric dentists, or a small group of general dentists doing Medicaid pediatrics who were looking to bring on an ortho. So they paid me basically nothing, and we survived. And I took that practice over the course of the next, 6 years. I took it from 400,000 to about 2.5 million. But the day I walked in the practice, the older of the 2 people said, "I've been working with you for 35 years and I love you, and I'm leaving with you." And then the other one said, "I'm going to start taking Social Security in December. And for those of y'all that are unaware, if you work when you're drawing Social Security before full retirement age, they tax your Social Security, not just your income." And so they were not very interested in working after that either. So basically I had a practice. It was just big enough I couldn't see them all myself, and I had no employees. And so what ended up happening, as usually happens, I see several spouses in here, is that, my spouse, my wife, had to come in and basically help rescue us. And so she came in, left a very good job to come be our office manager. And then slowly we grew, and slowly we grew, and slowly we grew, or quickly we grew, whichever way you want to look at it. But the problem becomes that our home life became our office life, and our children became our office rats. And, it was just, it was all consuming. And so, I felt like I was really young to be looking at a transition, but it was literally, all right, I'm either getting a handle on my office, or, I'm going to get a Dear John letter. And I didn't want a Dear John letter. And so we made the decision together that we were going to look into the opportunity. I was one of those guys that got an unsolicited offer. So the, Smile Docs was started by Goggins and, or by Fender and Scott Law. And the number 3, the third dentist that came on board, was a guy by the name of Dow Margison. Coming out of school, I was actually looking at going into practice with Dow. We were going to go in, pick up another location, grow it, all those kind of things. Well, Dow got a Dear John letter. And so we went from, okay, I'm looking at moving to Albany and, let's get the process started, to I got to come up with a whole bunch of money to end this relationship. And the only way I'm going to be able to do this is through selling a practice. So I'm sorry, that wasn't an option. So obviously, good friends with Dow. I was actually, I was at his house the day his divorce was finalized. We're good friends. And so when I started talking to him, he was like, oh, yeah, I can take good care of it. I can get you a deal. And so, he helped, kind of shepherded in. I got a deal from Smile Doctors, and I've never been one just to, take somebody's word for something. I want to make sure I kick the tires. And so I reached out to TUSK. I actually ended up talking to Ryan, who's his field general. And Ryan was like, man, there's a lot of meat left on this bone. I was like, what do you mean? Like, just trust me. There's a lot more money than there is in this office. And I said, I tell you what, if you make enough money to cover your commission, I'll let you work. And he said, I tell you what, if I don't make enough to cover my commission, the difference is what I'll take. And so went through the process, and he brought me 13 different offers. This was, still during COVID times. And, I was a young orthodontist. I had, bought an office, and then I had opened one satellite. And then I had an old orthodontist nearby that said, hey, will you take over my patients in a general dentist office? And so I kind of had a satellite, and then I had a, whatever you want to call that, was looking at, building an office over here to grow this, was in talks to possibly open a third office, bring on an associate. And, every offer you get comes with different, oh, well, we're going to tweak this, or we're going to turn this, or we're going to do this. And what made TUSK amazing, besides the fact that they were the adults, and, every time somebody would say, oh yeah, well, we're going to do this. No, we're not going to do that. That's not in the best interest of our client. We're not going to do this. We're going to make sure that this is this way. But it was, hey, if you open a de novo, well, how's that going to be fairly compensated? Okay, well, if you're going to build a building, are you going to build it, or is the private equity going to build it? And if you're going to build it, how are you, you're going to trap a lot of capital. How are you going to be, compensated for that? And, you're still in growth phase. How are we going to account for that? And, and then of course the private equities started pitching, okay, well, we'll do a JV model. You can come in, you can keep, 59 or 49.5%, and we'll let you sell 10% a year, or That way you can cap your growth. And literally, Ryan, the whole time, this is math. Okay. Are you planning on staying with them long term, or do you want out as quickly as possible? If you want out as quickly as possible, then, are you going to be able to grow it by this number? If you can't grow it by this number, this is the deal you go with. If you're going to be able to grow it by this number, you should definitely go this way. And then the same thing with the people that he brought me. He looked at me dead in the eye and said, I wouldn't take equities, guys. I don't think that's going to work out. And I had a residency mate that actually went through the process about the same time I did. And on his earnout a couple of weeks ago, he got an IOU. They handed him a piece of paper. Said, hey, you were supposed to get $1 million this week. We don't have it. We owe you. We're going to give you 10% on that money, but, if we have it next year, but we may not. So good luck. And so I'm very, very, very thankful just for the, you know, the knowledge that they had bringing into the situation, but also just the, you know, the number of Excel spreadsheets that we went through on, okay, you know, here's where your business is. This is the growth you expect. This is what evaluation you can expect. This is where it matters for each of these 5 partners. This is what was huge. But then getting completely away from that, I do think I got the best deal that was available to me. I do. I'm glad to see I might could have got a little more, but you know, hindsight's 2020. But the other thing was the number of hand-holding conversations about, you know, you don't get to walk away. It's not like selling a house. Hey, I sold my house. Sorry, the roof leaks. It's your problem now. You know, the personality and expectations of the people who are purchasing your practice. You know, there was some of them that, you know, literally wanted to come in and rebrand your practice and, hey, we want to open 5 more like you, and we want to do this and we want to do that. And others, hey, you know what? We don't want to do anything. Y'all are doing a great job. You know, my job's just to sign checks. What do you want us to do? Because, you know, your team members are counting on you, you know, especially if you're back in your hometown, you know, your community is counting on you. Your general dentist are going to have 10,000 questions for you. There's a lot of emotion that goes into it. And let's be honest, has anybody in here never not disagreed with their spouse? I mean, you know, it doesn't matter how close you are to a person, you are going to disagree about some things. So, you know, is there a level of respect there where you can say, I think this is the wrong decision, but this is your ship. And so I'm going to trust that you have our best interest, and this is the direction that we're going. And, you know, if it's a mail order business where you've never met the people and don't know anything about it, well, how the heck are you going to be able to walk out with a straight face to your team and say, hey, we're changing this, and this is the reason why we're changing this, and I think that this is the right thing. And there's a lot of I'm really glad that I went through that process, so that I do feel like I ended up with a good partner, a great partner, and that, you know, that I can say it's not a wish I woulda. I don't think there was a better option out there. I think I went with the best option, and I can look somebody in the eye and say, there's a lot of good.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
What questions can I answer? I just, you know.
That was great. We'll open it up. Go ahead.
I was talking to one of GS about it yesterday, and I